The icy, rotten stench of rust mixed with the damp mildew clung relentlessly to my skin, seeping into my pores and burrowing deep into my flesh and bone. Lingering for 5 endless years of utter despair, I curled up in this shabby, cramped cell of less than 10 square meters. My limbs weak and limp. My thin clothing could not fend off the piercing cold of the dungeon, leaving my body covered in overlapping old and new wounds. Festering sores crusted against my fabric, every small movement bringing searing, bone-deep agony. Dry, matted hair clung to my pale, sunken cheeks, caked with dust and dried blood, erasing every trace of the glamour I had once possessed as a queen of the business world. My hollow, dull eyes stared fixedly at the rusted, locked iron door before me, filled with endless darkness, overwhelming hatred, and regret rooted deep in my marrow. This was no official prison. Bound by no law or humanity, it was the cruelest, most vicious, most hopeless living hell on earth. And this tomb that had imprisoned me for 5 long years was a cage tailor-made for me by Chen Jie, the son-in-law I had nurtured and supported with my own hands. For 5 years, 1,825 days and nights, I was illegally confined in this fake private sanatorium, cut off from all light and sound of the outside world, enduring relentless spiritual humiliation and physical torment with no respite, no hope, only endless suffering and torture. Once, I, Li Chunhua, was the founder and chairwoman of Fen Jie Group, a business legend who had built a billion-dollar commercial empire from nothing. No one knew the hardships and perseverance behind my rise, nor the loneliness and courage it had taken to reach the peak. Born ordinary and with no one to rely on, I had endured the worst hardships in my youth, and survived desperate situations that broke others. With unyielding tenacity and decisive, ruthless tactics, I advanced step by step amid the treacherous business landscape, rising against all odds. For decades, I had weathered countless commercial storms, broken through industry barriers, dismantled deadly traps set by rivals, and fended off greedy competitors. My calculations were flawless, my decisions never wrong. I had fought my way through life, undefeated. Everyone in the industry feared and respected me, labeling me decisive, meticulous, cold and clear-headed. A woman with no weaknesses or flaws in the pursuit of fame and fortune. Yet no one knew that beneath my iron-hard exterior lay my fatal weakness. I was too soft-hearted, too attached to family, too protective of my only daughter. I had devoted half my life's hard work, wealth, and affection to raising my only daughter, Qin Yuxian, placing the best of everything at her feet, shielding her from all wind and rain, clearing every obstacle in her path, and sheltering her in a greenhouse where she never knew the cruelty of the world or the darkness of human nature. In the end, I had single-handedly ruined my own life's achievements and brilliant future. When Chen Jie first appeared beside Yuzin, he had nothing. Poor and unconnected, he possessed no wealth, status, resources, or influential contacts. His only assets were a gentle, harmless appearance and a glib, lying tongue. He was a master of feigning tenderness and devotion, skilled at reading people's hearts and pretending sincerity, deliberately hiding his greed and malice. He pursued Yuzin with overwhelming, meticulous care, weaving an illusory dream of pure, unwavering love that left the naive girl utterly infatuated and devoted. Raised indulgently by me, Yuxin was simple and stubborn, ignorant of human greed and darkness. She swore Chen Yu was her destined partner, refusing to marry anyone else, and quarreled with me repeatedly, even threatening to sever our mother-daughter bond to be with him. I had read countless people in my life, and the moment I laid eyes on Chen Yu, I saw the towering ambition and utilitarianism hidden beneath his mild facade. I warned Yuxin countless times, exposing his hypocrisy, telling her he loved not her, but her family background, my wealth, and my business empire. Yet blinded by love, she ignored every sincere warning I gave. She accused me of being cold, snobbish, and profit-driven, of lacking understanding for true love and being overbearing, claiming I used my power to control her life and force her into worldly utilitarianism. Stubbornly determined to spend her life with the penniless Chen Yu, she chose to turn against her own mother. For all my strength and decisiveness in business, I could not harden my heart against my own daughter, whom I had loved and raised all my life. I feared her youthful ignorance and poor judgment would lead her to a lifetime of regret. I feared her stubbornness would land her in hardship and grievance. In the end, motherly love made me yield and compromise again and again, lowering all my guards and boundaries to accept this penniless, ordinary man into our family. At that time, I held kindness and hope in my heart, believing sincerity would earn sincerity, nurture would earn gratitude, and tolerance would secure peace. I poured the group's top resources, core connections, and industry channels into paving his way and protecting his growth. I taught him business principles and life tactics personally, took him into high-end business circles, introduced him to industry leaders and powerful figures, gave him core projects and real power in the group, elevating him step by step from an unknown nobody to a high-ranking executive worth millions, allowing him to rise overnight to status and wealth beyond the reach of most people's lifelong struggles. I naively believed that my dedication and tolerance would earn his gratitude and loyalty, that he would treat my daughter well, safeguard my lifelong career, and protect my family's peace and prosperity. I thought all human hearts held warmth. All efforts bore fruit. But I never imagined that the man I had raised and promoted with my own hands was no grateful good man, but a hungry wolf in human skin, biding his time to bite me to pieces and devour everything I owned. The kindness and softness I had indulged was nothing but a venomous, ungrateful snake. Once his wings were full grown, he did not hesitate to strike, tearing my flesh and destroying my everything. During his years of lurking, Chen Yu always appeared docile, humble, filial, and respectful in front of me, perfectly playing the role of a devoted son-in-law and junior, fooling everyone and even lulling me into lowered guard. Privately, he was sinister, ruthless, and wildly ambitious, colluding with his greedy family to plan day and night, determined to empty my foundation, seize my wealth, and overthrow everything I had built. Using the authority I had granted him, he quietly embezzled the group's working capital, transferred high-quality assets in secret, and siphoned profits from core projects bit by bit, eroding and collapsing the commercial empire I had built over decades of blood and sweat. He knew Yuxin's weaknesses well, aware of her simplicity and dependence on him. Day after day, he whispered lies in her ear, sowing discord, distorting my intentions, smearing my actions, and instilling in her false beliefs that I was domineering, controlling, cold, and selfish. After years of brainwashing, Yu Xin's misunderstanding of me deepened. The bond between mother and daughter fractured, and the once intimate family affection broke apart, reduced to estrangement. Yet Chen Yu's most sinister and unforgivable schemes extended far beyond seizing power and wealth and destroying family affection. To completely control Yu Xin and turn her into a permanent tool to oppose and drain me, he secretly fed her sedatives and psychiatric drugs for years on end. Tiny doses of medicine invaded her body day by day, paralyzing her nerves, weakening her judgment, dulling her senses and reason, and gradually altering her gentle, clear temperament, turning her paranoid, irritable, sensitive, irrational, and unable to distinguish right from wrong. From then on, at every trivial conflict between mother and daughter, Yu Xin would unconditionally side with Chen Yu, arguing against me without hesitation, speaking harshly and hurtfully to the mother who loved and protected her with all I had. Loyal subordinates and relatives warned me repeatedly that Chen Yu's ambition was swelling and that he was plotting treason, urging me to restrain him early. But trapped by my lingering maternal affection, I softened and tolerated him time and again, comforting myself that all people were inherently kind, hoping he would appreciate my nurturing kindness, and telling myself that, as long as my daughter lived happily, I could endure any grievance and loss. My endless concessions and tolerance only fueled Chen Yu's greed and arrogance, emboldening him to grow increasingly unscrupulous and reckless. He began openly currying favor with group executives, cultivating personal forces, forming cliques, and eliminating dissent, gradually stripping me of power, cutting off my control, and severing all my channels of information and decision-making, isolating me completely within my own business empire. By the time I finally woke up to his sinister schemes and wolfish ambitions, it was already too late. After years of lurking and planning, he had firmly seized almost all core businesses, profitable channels, and personnel power of the group, reducing me, the founder and chairwoman, to a powerless figurehead with no authority, no loyal subordinates, and no way out. To eliminate me, his only obstacle, once and for all, and secure the stolen empire for good, Chen Yu laid his most vicious, fatal trap. He colluded with unethical doctors and bribed industry contacts to forge complete medical reports, diagnosing severe mental collapse and major depression. He spread rumors widely in high-end business circles that I was mentally unstable, irrational, and emotionally out of control, unfit to manage the prosperous Fenghua Group. Then, pretending to be worried and considerate, he persuaded me to rest and recuperate at a high-end private sanatorium, vowing to take full charge of all company affairs on my behalf, protect the family business, and return all power to me once I recovered. Decades of high-intensity work and chronic mental exhaustion had long left me physically and mentally drained. Looking at his dutiful, reliable pretense, worn out, I chose to trust him once more, and agreed to his so-called recuperation arrangement. That seemingly ordinary compromise and foolish trust sent me straight to the irredeemable abyss of hell. The so-called high-end private sanatorium had no medical facilities, no convalescent services, no comfort at all. It was merely a remote, isolated, heavily guarded, illegal private prison, a purgatory cage tailor-made for me by Chen Yu. The moment I stepped inside, my phone, communication devices, and personal belongings were forcibly confiscated, cutting me off from all contact with the outside world. Confined to a dark, damp cell, year-round. I saw no sunlight and received no attention. All the guards were thugs and brutal henchmen personally selected and heavily paid by Chen Yu. Following his secret orders, they insulted, bullied, and abused me wantonly, torturing me day and night without the slightest humanity. In freezing winter, they took away all my quilts and clothes, leaving me shivering in piercing cold all night, covered in festering frostbite, enduring endless nights worse than death. In sweltering summer, they locked me in a stuffy, airless cell infested with mosquitoes and insects, leaving me bitten, swollen, and ulcerated, suffering unbearable torment, day in and day out. My treatment regarding food and water was even more cruel and humiliating. I was never given normal meals. Only moldy, rotten, sour leftover food. They often cut off my water and food entirely for days, leaving me dizzy with hunger, weak and exhausted, my bodily functions deteriorating day by day, teetering on the verge of physical collapse. Any resistance or complaint from me was met with merciless beatings and clubbings. New wounds overlapping old ones. My bones and flesh aching everywhere. Enduring dual physical and mental torture every single day. Once, I had possessed billions in wealth, stood at the pinnacle of society, dressed in fine clothes and respected by all. A revered queen of the business world. Now I was trapped in the mud and cage, destitute and covered in wounds, living more wretchedly than a beggar, stripped of all dignity. On countless days and nights, I screamed and shouted with all my strength, declaring my identity and my grievances, begging the guards to let me go and save me. But I received no mercy or salvation, only endless mockery, contempt, and humiliation. Those thugs laughed insolently at me, sneering at my foolishness and poor judgment, telling me that all the wealth and power I had worked half my life to build had fallen entirely into Chen Yu's hands, leaving me powerless and destitute, a worthless prisoner with no trace of my former glory. Physical torture I could endure through gritted teeth. What truly broke me and drove me to the brink of despair was the icy indifference and betrayal of my own daughter Chen Yuxin. For 5 years of imprisonment, Chen Yu never stopped brainwashing and deceiving her, lying day after day that I was mentally disordered, irritable, and extreme, requiring long-term isolation and restraint treatment to stabilize my mind. Drugged and deceived, Yuxin believed every one of his lies without the slightest doubt or investigation. For 5 full years, she never once set foot in that prison, never visited her suffering, dying mother, never asked after my life, safety, or hardship. She peacefully enjoyed the billions of wealth and supreme glory I had spent my life building, wearing my treasures, using my resources, occupying my foundation, living a sweet, prosperous, envied life with the man who had imprisoned and tortured me, completely forgetting the mother who had given her everything and been pushed into hell by her own hand. She had forgotten who raised her with hardship, who built a safe haven for her, who shielded her from all harm, with half a lifetime of devotion only to be abandoned, betrayed, and pushed into the abyss by her own child. On countless dark, lonely nights howling with cold wind, I curled up alone on the cold ground, swallowed by despair and hatred, weeping silently, bearing all my grievances, pain, and hopelessness alone. I hated Chen Yu's ingratitude, cruelty, greed, and hypocrisy. Hated that he had drained my trust, emptied my foundation, and destroyed my life under a mask of tenderness. But what I hated and grieved far more was my own daughter, whom I had loved and protected with every ounce of my being. I hated her foolish stubbornness, blind obedience, lack of discernment, coldness, and selfishness. Half my life's toil and devotion, all my love and protection, had ultimately earned me the most thorough, tragic betrayal, ruined career, destroyed family, imprisonment in purgatory, utter ruin. I had been sober, decisive, and clear-headed all my life, seeing through all human evil and business treachery, undefeated in every calculation. Yet I had fallen prey to family obsession and soft-hearted indulgence, sacrificing my brilliant life for an unworthy mother-daughter bond. After 5 years in purgatory, my body was broken and exhausted, my internal organs severely damaged, my bones and meridians covered in old injuries, plagued by constant, crippling pain. On the final night of my life, my body was covered in overlapping festering wounds, my internal organs tearing with agony, every breath bringing piercing pain and a bloody taste in my throat. Through the small, dirty iron window of my cell, I weakly gazed at the distant twinkling lights and bustling prosperity of the city, the brilliant, thriving business empire I had built through decades of dawn to dusk, hard work and desperate struggle. Yet all of it had been seized and squandered by the greedy Chen family. My lifelong painstaking foundation turned into spoils for the ungrateful wolf I had nurtured, used to hurt, destroy, and ruin me. And my beloved daughter stood firmly by the villain's side, treading on my blood and wreckage to enjoy my glory and wealth. How ironic! How absurd! How tragic! Overwhelming regret and bone-chilling hatred surged like towering waves, drowning my fading consciousness. I regretted my lifelong softness and family obsession, regretted indulging villains and harboring evil, regretted yielding my principles for unworthy people in every choice between good and evil, ruthless and clear-headed in business, never lenient with others. I had been overly gentle and foolishly kind to my own family, ultimately ending in utter tragedy. My vision blurred, my breathing weakened, my life force fading away. With my last shred of strength, I swore a blood oath that echoed through heaven and earth. Firm and unyielding, if I were reborn, I would sever all useless obsessions and abandon all foolish softness. I would never compromise for family affection, never yield for false warmth, never trust anyone easily, never indulge any evil. All those who betrayed, schemed against, hurt, and destroyed me would repay me 100-fold, 1,000-fold. I would make them taste every bit of my suffering and despair, endure blood and tears, and fall to ruin and disgrace. I would tear down all hypocritical masks, expose all sinister plots, reclaim everything I had lost, defend my dignity and integrity, rid myself of all weaknesses, wear only armor, and be decisive and unforgiving forever. A thick wave of blood rushed up my throat, choking my breath. Darkness swallowed my vision entirely, and my consciousness sank into endless silence. I died in the living hell I had fostered with my own softness, buried under boundless hatred and regret. Mom, Mom, wake up! After an unknown length of time, a familiar yet utterly repulsive gentle voice rang clearly in my ears, warm, solicitous, and feigned. The voice of Chen Jie, whom I hated to the bone. That false tenderness and deliberate gentleness had deceived me for years and ruined my life. I gasped violently and jolted awake, soaked in cold sweat, my heart pounding violently. The piercing pain and torture of 5 years in purgatory were still etched into every inch of my bones and flesh, vivid enough to terrify and despair. Yet when I struggled to open my eyes, the dark, damp, shabby cell and suffocating purgatory were gone. Before me lay the bright, spacious, luxurious, elegant living room of my private villa. The air was fresh and warm, filled with a faint, delicate fragrance, free of the dungeon's rotten rust and bloody mildewed stench. I, tremblingly, touched my cheek smooth, fair, and tight, without scars, festering wounds, or the haggard weariness of suffering. I stretched my limbs, light and vigorous, full of vitality, free from bone-deep pain, chronic illness, and the weakness of near death. All around me was the familiar luxury and warmth I had once owned and later lost completely. I slowly lifted my eyes to see Chen Jie standing before me, tall and exquisitely dressed, wearing his flawless, warm, gentle fake smile. But having survived purgatory and seen through all plots, I could now clearly discern the greed, calculation, ambition, and utilitarian malice hidden deep in his eyes beneath the perfect mask. No longer blinded by false warmth. Not far away, my daughter Qin Yuxin looked at me with genuine anxiety and worry, gentle and innocent as ever. Yet I now knew that beneath that innocence lay ignorance, moral confusion, betrayal, and ultimate cruelty. My heart trembled violently, my breathing unsteady with stunned, ecstatic disbelief as I turned to the wall calendar. The clear date struck me dumb with overwhelming emotion. I was reborn. I had truly returned from the abyss of hell. I had come back 1 full year before my illegal imprisonment and tragic death in purgatory. All tragedies, betrayals, bankruptcies, tortures, and separations had not yet come to pass. All of Chen Jie's sinister layouts, hidden schemes, and power-grabbing plots had only just begun to take shape. Far from completion or catastrophe, heaven had mercy on me, granting me a chance to rewrite my fate, avenge my blood feuds, and reclaim my lost glory. The fleeting joy faded in an instant, replaced by the flooding memories of 5 years of purgatorial torment, betrayal, and humiliation. The last trace of warmth, softness, and a family obsession in my heart vanished completely. Reborn from the abyss, I was reborn anew, transformed, no longer soft, indulgent, or hesitant. My heart held only icy resolution, bone-deep hatred, and an unyielding desire for revenge. I would settle accounts with everyone who had wronged, hurt, and betrayed me, sparing none, showing no mercy. Mom, you suddenly fainted just now. Have you been overworking yourself with company affairs? Chen Jie stepped forward quickly, his tone warm, solicitous, and utterly feigned, his every move perfectly embodying the dutiful son-in-law persona, every word a calculated ploy to win my trust. I've already called the family doctor to give you a full checkup. You must take good care of your health and stop exhausting yourself. Faced with his skilled, flawless hypocrisy, my heart filled only with icy disgust and towering scorn. In my past life, this exact tender, dutiful pretense had blinded me, made me soften and compromise repeatedly, and ultimately brought me ruin and purgatory. I knew clearly that at this very moment, he was still secretly drugging Yuxen to erode her sanity, still currying favor, and cultivating private power to infiltrate group authority, still transferring assets and plotting to seize my foundation and destroy my life. All his tenderness, consideration, and filial piety were nothing but a carefully staged scam. Sugar-coated blades to lower my guard, steal my trust, and strike fatally when the time was right. I lifted my eyes slowly, my dark pupils cold and emotionless, filled with icy detachment, calm insight, and sharp oppression. The tolerance, tenderness, trust, and leniency I had once shown him were gone entirely, replaced by icy coldness, alienation, and scrutiny, without an ounce of indulgence or softness. The gentle smile on Chen Yu's face froze instantly, his body stiffening slightly, a flicker of hidden panic and astonishment flashing in his eyes. He had never seen me like this, cold, sharp, overwhelmingly imposing, distant and unfathomable, stripped of all my former gentleness and leniency, instantly filling him with dread and uncertainty. No need for a doctor. I'm fine. My voice was cold, low, steady, and utterly emotionless, distant and decisive, shattering the warm false atmosphere he had created. Chen Yu quickly concealed his panic, forcing a gentle, persuasive tone. Mom, you just collapsed suddenly, frightening us terribly. Your body must be overtaxed. Don't push yourself. Rest well from now on. Let me handle all the complicated company affairs for you. Just relax and recuperate. I will take good care of everything and never let you work so hard again. Listening to these familiar words, I sneered coldly in my heart. These seemingly considerate, filial words had deceived me into lowering my guard and yielding power in my past life, sending me straight to irreversible ruin. These false words of sharing burdens and easing my stress had been the beginning of my lifelong tragedy. A fatal trap laid by the wolf in sheep's clothing. There's no need. My tone was calm yet firm, leaving no room for negotiation. Cold and final. My company, my industry, my foundations are my responsibility alone. I will manage them myself. You need not assist or interfere in any way. This unsparing, direct rejection shattered his false, gentle facade completely. Chen Yu's expression changed abruptly, his warmth fading entirely, replaced by obvious panic, astonishment, and resentment, his heart sinking with intense unease. Beside him, He Yuxin frowned immediately, full of grievance, rushing instinctively to defend Chen Yu. She looked at me with confusion, complaint, and dissatisfaction, her tone accusatory. Mom, Chen Yu means well. He only wants to ease your burden and worries. Why are you so cold and harsh to him? He works wholeheartedly for our family and company, with no selfish intentions at all. How can you misunderstand and treat him like this? Watching my daughter's blind loyalty to the villain and utter lack of judgment, the last trace of maternal warmth in my heart froze and vanished completely. The endless pain, betrayal, and regret of my 5-year purgatory surged over me in waves. Every wound and grievance fresh and vivid. I lifted my hand gently, pushing away her arm calmly, without my usual tenderness and indulgence. My attitude cold and distant. My business is none of your concern. Do not interfere. My voice was calm yet unyielding, cutting off her intervention completely. Before she could argue further, I fixed my cold, sharp gaze on the flustered, scheming Chen Yu and delivered my first decisive order after rebirth, severing his power-grabbing plots and delusions completely. Effective immediately. Hand over all your management, project, and personnel authority in Fen Jie Group. All your work permissions, post privileges, and approval qualifications are suspended and frozen indefinitely, pending further official notice. You are not allowed to take any action or perform any duties without my personal approval. The sudden, drastic change left both Chen Yu and Qin Yuxin stunned, utterly shocked and speechless. After a moment of stunned silence, Chen Yu quickly suppressed his panic, putting on a perfect show of grievance and innocence, feigning confusion and sincerity. Mom, what does this mean? Since I joined the company, I have worked diligently and conscientiously, devoted wholeheartedly to the group's development without a single mistake or selfish thought. Why would you suddenly revoke all my authority and suspend my work? I truly cannot understand or accept this. Faced with his consummate acting and flawless pretense, I felt only icy scorn and revulsion. I knew his thoughts and character perfectly well. His current rocks and innocence were nothing but attempts to gain sympathy, shake my decision, and retain his power and status. I looked down coldly at his hypocritical face, my gaze sharp as a blade, my aura overwhelming, merciless and unyielding. As the founder, sole shareholder, and supreme chairwoman of Fen Jie Group, I hold absolute authority over all personnel appointments, power allocations, promotions, and disciplinary decisions. I owe no one an explanation. Hand over all authority and cooperate with the inspection voluntarily. That is your last dignity. If you resist and refuse to comply, I will issue an official dismissal and removal document immediately, permanently revoking all your positions and expelling you completely from the group. My words were crisp, decisive, and uncompromising, shattering all his fluke hopes and fake pretenses. Chen Yu's face turned deathly pale, panic and fear spreading through his body, leaving him tense and cold. He knew better than anyone that all his status, wealth, connections, and power had been bestowed entirely by me. I could lift him to the clouds in one day and cast him down to the dirt, destitute. The next, complete dismissal from the group would reduce him instantly to the penniless nobody he had once been, crushing all his ambitions and plots into ashes. Qin Yuxin grew frantic, filled with anger and grievance, confronting me recklessly with the tone of childish threat. Mom, are you deliberately targeting and making things hard for Chen Yu just to upset me? If you insist on being unreasonable and harsh to him, I will leave with him and sever our mother-daughter relationship forever. In my past life, this familiar threat had always exploited my weakness and softness, forcing me to compromise and yield, indulging villains and wronging myself, until catastrophe and regret consumed me. But reborn through life and death, seeing through the falsity of family affection and human coldness, I was completely unaffected. The weakness that had once pierced my heart and broken my defenses was now hardened, severed, and gone forever. I glanced indifferently at her agitated, stubborn face, my tone flat and emotionless. Go if you wish. I will not stop you, nor will I beg you to stay. This single sentence shattered Qin Yuxian's worldview completely, leaving her frozen in stunned disbelief. Since childhood, no matter how willfully she misbehaved, How she threatened severance. How she rebelled and erred. I had always softened, compromised, yielded, and comforted her, never treating her with such coldness and indifference. She panicked completely, lost, and at a loss. I wasted no more time or emotion on this ungrateful, ignorant pair. I took out my phone and dialed Sun Guowei, my only loyal, trustworthy subordinate in this life. In my past life, trapped in purgatory, abandoned by all, only Sun Guowei had feared no power or retaliation, risking his career, wealth, and life to secretly plan and rescue me repeatedly, even when maliciously suppressed, expelled, and ruined by Chen Yu. He had never betrayed his loyalty. I would always remember this, lifelong loyalty and devotion. And in this life, I would protect this loyal subordinate and repay him 100-fold with glory and prosperity. The moment the call connected, my tone was cold. My orders clear, precise, and efficient. Guowei, drop all current work and arrive at my private villa within 10 minutes without delay. Remotely freeze all of Chen Yu's system, office, approval, and post authority in the group immediately. Fully revoke all project management, asset supervision, business decision-making, and personnel advisory rights previously granted to him. Leave nothing intact. Establish a special audit team at once to conduct a comprehensive, zero omission in-depth investigation into all projects, funds, cooperations, and contracts Chen Yu has handled since joining the company. Check every account. Verify every project. Confirm every partner. Dig out all hidden operations, irregularities, and illegal transactions. Secure complete evidence and records. And investigate thoroughly with zero tolerance. On the other end of the line, Sun Guowei obeyed instantly, without hesitation. His tone steady, respectful, and efficient, embodying the professionalism and absolute loyalty of a top subordinate. The call ended, and Chen Yu's face turned utterly ashen, his heart collapsing in terror. He finally realized clearly that I was no longer the soft, indulgent woman he could easily fool and manipulate. I was truly determined to investigate and punish him, leaving him no room for lack. 10 minutes later, Sun Guowei arrived promptly, walking steadily into the living room and standing respectfully before me, calm and rigorous. Looking at this loyal, reliable subordinate who had stood by me through life and death, I felt a flicker of warmth in my heart before refocusing my resolve and issuing formal, decisive decisions to launch my full revenge and settlement. Issue an official group personnel document immediately, permanently removing Chen Yu from all positions in Fenghua Group, revoking all titles and authority with permanent disqualification. Seal all his work files, office records, project materials, and fund flows to secure all evidence and operation traces. Order the special audit team to accelerate the investigation. Dig deep into all evidence of corruption, embezzlement, irregular operations, and power-grabbing plots. Compile complete case materials, and transfer all confirmed illegal evidence to judicial authorities for formal prosecution and severe legal punishment with zero tolerance. These firm, layered orders crushed Chen Yu's last fluke hope completely. He panicked and lost control entirely, abandoning his gentle, elegant facade to step forward anxiously and plead, "Mom, I've done nothing wrong. This is groundless suspicion and malicious targeting. You've misunderstood and wronged me. I have never harmed the company or betrayed you. You can't do this to me. I looked down indifferently at his flustered, ugly desperation, my eyes cold with contempt and absolute dominance. My tone calm yet overpowering. Using the resources, status, and power I bestowed upon you, you secretly formed cliques, embezzled funds, plotted to seize power, and schemed day and night to empty my foundation, destroy my achievements, and ruin my life. You know full well all the dirty, despicable, ungrateful evils you have committed. In my past life, my softness and indulgence allowed your ambition to grow unchecked and bring forth great disaster. Reborn and hardened by purgatory, I will never give you another chance to scheme or turn the tables. Chen Yu's pupils contracted sharply, his mind thrown into chaos and terror, utterly unable to comprehend why the once gentle, yielding me had become so clear-headed, decisive, and omniscient, able to pinpoint all his hidden plots and cut off every escape route. Terrified, yet still unwilling to concede defeat, he struggled to steady himself and continue pleading innocence and sophistry. I ignored his futile pretense and issued further orders to tighten the net completely. Arrange a special team immediately to conduct 24-hour full surveillance of all Chen family members' movements, fund flows, social contacts, and industry changes. Record every transaction, activity, and alteration in full. File all records confidentially. And track updates in real time, no detail. No hidden operation shall be missed. Cornered and left with no way out, Chen Yu frantically signaled the tearful, foolish Chen Yuxin to plead for him and force me to compromise. Blinded by love and still stubbornly ignorant, Chen Yuxin rushed to defend him once again, weeping and accusing me of cruelty, harshness, and unreasonableness, even threatening severance again to pressure me into yielding. Watching her foolish, pathetic, traitorous devotion to her enemy, my heart remained completely calm and empty, free of anger, sorrow, or disappointment. The bitter lessons of my past life had taught me that stubborn ignorance could not be redeemed, and all rocks and tolerance were cruelty to myself and indulgence of evil. My tone flat and unwavering, I cut off all her threats and delusions completely. If you insist on defending him and severing ties with me, so be it. Your choices, your life, your fate are no longer my concern, nor can they affect me in any way. Qin Yuxin was completely stunned, unable to adapt to my cold, unyielding attitude that stripped her of all bargaining chips. Panicked and helpless, she stood frozen. I ignored the pathetic pair in the living room entirely, turning and walking straight upstairs, leaving this ridiculous, farcical drama behind. I knew clearly that this was only the beginning of my revenge, the first step to cutting off disaster and rewriting fate. Chen Yu had lurked and plotted for years, cultivating hidden forces and buried dangers that could not be completely eradicated in a single day. In the days that followed, I devoted myself entirely to internal group rectification, power purification, hazard investigation, and industrial upgrading, drawing on my decades of business experience, insight into human nature, foresight of future trends, and full knowledge of Chen Yu's every hidden plot and operation. I accurately locked onto all his embezzlement, secret transfers, colluders, traps, and buried dangers. I investigated every asset he had covertly transferred, every fund he had misappropriated, every person he had colluded with, every trap he had laid, and every hidden danger he had planted. I dismantled his carefully built network of connections, interest chains, and private forces one layer at a time, smashing all his hypocritical schemes and power-grabbing tactics. As the investigation deepened and the truth unfolded, the Chen family's extreme greed, ingratitude, malice, and wolfish ambition were fully exposed to me, far more despicable and unforgivable than I had known in my past life. The entire Chen family, old and young alike, were consumed by greed, united in conspiracy from the very beginning, fixated on seizing my wealth, foundation, connections, and status. The whole family acted in unison, pretending weakness and humility, rising to wealth and status through my support and tolerance, without a shred of gratitude or contentment. In their eyes, I was never a benefactor or kind elder, only a foolish, soft-hearted tool to be exploited, manipulated, and plundered for their overnight success and social advancement. Most chilling and unforgivable of all was the ironclad evidence confirming Chen Yu's long-term intentional poisoning and mental manipulation of Qin Yuxin. Purchase records, fund flows, logistics, documents, and private transfer records spanning years were complete, clear, and irrefutable, documenting his regular, long-term purchases of sedatives and psychiatric inhibitory drugs. For years without interruption, he secretly drugged his own wife, my daughter, paralyzing her nerves, dulling her judgment, distorting her temperament, and destroying her rationality day by day. He transformed the once gentle, pure, sensible Yu Xin into an irrational, paranoid, blindly obedient puppet manipulated entirely by him, used to confront, drain, and ultimately destroy me. For years, my own daughter was poisoned, manipulated, and exploited by her husband. Yet she wholeheartedly defended the villain, who ruined her life and harmed her mother, hurting and betraying her own family, again and again, for his sake. Every time I reviewed these shocking, conclusive records, my hatred and coldness deepened, erasing the last trace of tolerance and leniency toward the Qin family and this pair. All tragedies, pains, and betrayals had clear roots and karma, and in this life, I would settle every score and spare no one. Time passed quickly, ushering in the grand 50th birthday banquet of Chen Yu's mother. In my past life, this banquet had been the Chen family's glorious peak, cementing their foothold in high-end social circles, amid universal admiration and praise. My softness, face-saving, and tolerance at that time had led me to attend and grace the occasion, granting the Chen family supreme glory and status. Leveraging my connections, reputation, and status, they successfully integrated into upper-class circles, accumulated resources and capital, and grew powerful enough to eventually betray and destroy me, pushing me into the abyss. That banquet had been a turning point for their rise and a lifelong regret for me. But in this life, the wheel of fate had reversed completely. I would never repeat my mistakes or indulge evil again. This highly anticipated luxurious banquet would no longer be the Chen family's glory ceremony. It would be their public execution, the stage for their disgrace, shattered delusions, and complete downfall, where I would publicly settle all grievances and avenge my blood feuds. The banquet was held at the city's most luxurious 5-star international hotel, a grand, top-spec high society event. On the day of the celebration, half the city's business elites, dignitaries, wealthy families, and industry leaders gathered, filling the venue with splendor and excitement. Dressed in custom haute couture and covered in jewels, the entire Chen family shone brightly. Every luxury bestowed by my support and wealth. They strutted arrogantly, reveling in the guests' flattery, admiration, and fawning. Chen Yu and Qin Yuxin stood side by side, a seemingly perfect, loving couple envied by all. Every guest praised Chen Yu as humble, filial, diligent, young, and promising, admiring the Chen family's good fortune in climbing high and achieving instant prosperity through their daughter's marriage. Drunk on endless praise and glory, the Chen family grew arrogant and delusional, convinced that my billion-dollar business empire was already in their grasp, that all my lifelong achievements belonged to them, and that their family would surely rise to the peak of prosperity forever. Boundless adoration inflated their ambition and greed to reckless heights. As the banquet atmosphere reached its most lively, bustling peak amid clinking glasses and endless applause, I entered the banquet hall slowly, dressed in a sleek, cold, elegant black custom formal suit. My tall, poised figure and overwhelming icy aura instantly silenced the entire noisy venue, drawing every gaze. All guests watched respectfully, assuming I had come to show favor and celebrate Mrs. Chen's birthday to save face. No one knew I had not come to celebrate or maintain superficial decency. I had come to overturn the feast, expose their masks, settle their crimes, execute public revenge, and bring their downfall. Spotting my arrival, Chen Yu's eyes flashed with panic and dread before he quickly masked his emotions, hurrying forward to resume his skilled, hypocritical performance of humility and filial piety. "Mom, you're here. Please take a seat and rest. You've worked hard." Mrs. Chen also rushed forward with feigned enthusiasm and flattery to greet me, utterly hypocritical. My expression was cold and indifferent, emotionless, ignoring their deliberate warmth and pretense entirely. I walked straight through the crowd to the central stage of the banquet. Calm, powerful, and fearless. Beside me, He Yusai looked flustered and embarrassed, whispering urgently for me to behave, save face, and not ruin the grand banquet. I ignored her warnings completely. Standing alone in the center of the stage under the full attention of the crowd, I slowly picked up the standing microphone. My cold, deep, penetrating voice echoed clearly throughout the vast banquet hall, every word thunderous and decisive. I am not here today to celebrate a birthday or maintain superficial decency. I am here today to publicly expose a years-long, carefully calculated, ungrateful conspiracy, and to publicly settle the crimes of a greedy, vicious, ungrateful clan that bit the hand that fed them. The cold, solemn, earth-shaking declaration instantly plunged the entire bustling banquet into dead silence. Every guest stunned and buzzing with shock. All smiles faded. Every glass and chopstick halted midair. Countless pairs of eyes fixed tightly on the central stage, waiting for the truth that was about to be revealed. Chen Yu's face drained of all color in an instant. He could no longer sustain his gentle, refined demeanor, striding forward in frantic panic, his voice sharp and flustered as he tried to interrupt and salvage his collapsing reputation. "Mom, stop this madness. Today is my mother's 50th birthday banquet. attended by countless honored guests from all walks of life. Do not spout nonsense, stir up trouble, and ruin my mother's birthday celebration and our family's lifelong reputation. I lifted my icy gaze, sharp enough to slice through all pretense, staring straight at his frantic, desperate face. My tones stern and unsparing, every word a blade piercing his years of hypocrisy. You have spent years plotting in secret, committing endless dirty, vicious, ungrateful crimes and schemes. Now that the truth is about to surface, and your ugly true colors are laid bare, you finally know fear. Finally, fear public disgrace and ruin. Beside him, Mrs. Chen completely lost her gentle, kind elderly matriarch facade, flying into a rage, pointing at me and shouting hysterically, spitting venomous accusations in front of every elite guest present. You are slandering and defaming us out of spite. My son is filial, honest, grateful, and devoted. He has treated you with nothing but respect and diligence. How dare you fabricate lies to ruin our family's reputation? You are ruthless, cruel, and unreasonable. I sneered coldly at her shameless reversal of right and wrong, no longer wasting breath on futile arguments. With a casual wave of my hand, I signaled Sung Guowei, who stood waiting in the audience. The massive high-definition screen in the center of the banquet hall lit up instantly. Layer upon layer, piece upon piece of ironclad evidence was projected publicly for all to see crystal clear, complete, and irrefutable. Years of fully recorded fund embezzlement flows, illegal transfer records, black box operation contracts, private collusion chat logs, internal power usurpation documents, asset occupation statements, and industrial theft vouchers were displayed in full detail. Every transaction traceable, every crime fully documented. Immediately following were the complete long-term purchase records, logistics bills, private payment receipts, and confidential transaction proofs of sedatives and psychiatric inhibitory drugs purchased regularly by Chen Yu over successive years. All evidence of his long-term secret drug feeding, mental manipulation of his wife, deliberate estrangement of mother and daughter, and step-by-step power usurpation was fully presented, forming an unbreakable, complete chain of criminal proof. Every dirty scheme, every vicious plot, every ungrateful act, every greedy calculation of the entire Chen family over the years was completely exposed to the upper-class elites and industry leaders present, with nowhere to hide and no way to deny. A deafening wave of shock and uproar swept through the entire venue in an instant. Every guest was utterly stunned, their previous admiration and envy for the Chen family vanishing without a trace, replaced by overwhelming shock, contempt, disgust, and outrage. No one had imagined that the humble, filial, promising young talent, praised by everyone, was actually a hypocritical, insidious, vicious wolf in human skin. That the soaring, envied Chen family had climbed to prosperity entirely through ingratitude, conspiracy, poisoning, and betrayal. All flattering gazes turned to icy disdain and silent judgment, burying the entire Chen family in public humiliation and disgrace. Chen Yu trembled violently all over, his body stiff and cold. All his masks, hollows, dignity, and pretense completely shattered and reduced to ashes under the weight of irrefutable evidence. The grand birthday banquet meant to glorify his family had instantly turned into their public execution and lifelong shame. Qin Yuxin froze on the spot like a statue struck by lightning, her mind going blank. Her entire worldview and years of firm beliefs crumbling completely in an instant. She stared numbly at the endless conclusive evidence on the screen. Every line of words piercing her heart like a sharp blade. The man she had loved wholeheartedly, trusted unconditionally, defended desperately, and even broken her mother-daughter bond for, was not a devoted lover or good husband at all, only a calculating, cruel villain who had drugged her for years, manipulated her mind, used her as a tool, and betrayed her without mercy. All those years of motherly advice and earnest warnings had been true. Yet she had been foolishly blind, stubbornly obsessed, repeatedly hurting her loving mother for a liar, repeatedly standing on the side of evil to betray her own family. Shattering despair and endless regret flooded her entire body in an instant. Hot tears burst from her eyes, blurring her vision completely. She trembled uncontrollably, staggering unsteadily, her voice broken and hoarse with her last trace of desperate self-delusion. Tell me all of this is fake. These are forged evidences. Slanderous lies. Tell me you have never lied to me, never hurt me, never plotted against me. All pretense was useless now, that disaster was at hand, and the truth was laid bare. Chen Yu completely abandoned his years of gentle, affectionate, humble disguise. The warmth in his eyes faded entirely, leaving only icy malice, brutal cruelty, selfish coldness, and unbridled viciousness. He violently shoved the tearful, crumbling Qin Yuxin away with brute force, his movements ruthless and unsparing. No trace of tenderness or pity left. So, what if it's true? Every single thing was planned, acted out, calculated from the very start. It was all a scam. This cold, merciless sentence completely crushed Qin Yuxin's last wisp of hope and illusion. Her body swayed violently, stumbling backward, on the verge of collapse. Years of sincere devotion, wholehearted trust, desperate defense, and youthful infatuation had all been a ridiculous, pathetic, tragic farce for this cold-blooded, ungrateful villain. She had betrayed her mother, severed family affection, hurt her closest kin, abandoned her warm and perfect life, and ruined her own youth and future with her own hands. Watching her collapse in despair and drown in regret, my heart remained completely cold and indifferent, without the slightest pity or softness. All the pain, regret, and collapse she endured at this moment was the inevitable karmic retribution for her years of stubborn ignorance, indiscriminate loyalty, and familial betrayal. Every bitter fruit was planted and borne by herself. No one else to blame. I raised the microphone once more, my voice solemn, powerful, and unyielding, ringing across the entire venue to deliver the final, irreversible judgment upon the Chen family before all the distinguished guests. Chen Yu is guilty of massive embezzlement, commercial fraud, illegal asset occupation, enterprise hollowing, power usurpation, intentional harm, long-term mental manipulation, and deliberate familial estrangement. All charges are fully evidenced, factually conclusive, and utterly unpardonable. I have compiled a complete chain of evidence and formally submitted all materials to judicial authorities for official filing and public prosecution. All illegally obtained assets, properties, industries, and profits of the entire Chen family will be fully frozen, recovered, and returned to Fen Jie Group in full. All relatives and associates of the Chen family who participated in conspiracy, assisted in wrongdoing, or harbored criminals will be held legally responsible and severely punished without exception or leniency. As my judgment fell, uniformed judicial officers walked steadily into the banquet hall, their presence solemn and intimidating. They marched straight toward the paralyzed Chen Yu, and the crisp click of handcuffs locking around his wrists cut through the silence sharply. The elegant young talent in everyone's eyes was instantly reduced to a handcuffed criminal, his years of glory and pretense shattered in a single second. Terrified and desperate, Chen Yu completely lost his dignity, collapsing to his knees in panic, crawling forward frantically to beg for mercy, tears and sweat smearing his face. Utterly wretched and ugly. "Mom, I'm sorry, I know my wrongs. Spare me this once, I'll return everything. I'll give back all the money and power. Please have mercy on me." I looked down coldly at his groveling, desperate form, my heart like frozen ice, unmoved by his pathetic plea. When I endured 5 years of endless torture in the dark purgatory, screaming in despair and begging for a chance to live, who showed me mercy when you personally locked me in hell, personally poisoned my daughter, personally hollowed out my lifelong foundation? You never hesitated or softened your heart for a single moment. Good and evil reap their own rewards. Your today is the inevitable retribution for your countless sins. It is far too late for regret and pleading. Chen Yu's eyes turned hollow and lifeless, his strength completely drained, collapsing limply on the ground, utterly defeated and desperate. "Mrs. Chen," wailed and collapsed on the floor, her luxurious attire in disarray, her hair ornaments scattered everywhere, no trace of her former arrogance and pride left. She cried hysterically, regretting her greed and indulgence, regretting encouraging her son's evil deeds. But all repentance was futile and irredeemable. The surrounding guests watched the scene of complete downfall and reckoning with complex emotions. No one offering sympathy or pity. Everyone finally truly understood that my former Rock's intolerance were not weakness, but excessive kindness. My current Rocks and harshness were the true demeanor of a business queen who had seen through all human evil. From this day forward, no one in the entire business circle dared to underestimate or provoke me again. Everyone knew that Fen Jie Group would completely eradicate internal cancers, rise from the ashes, and stand firmly at the top of the industry, with me holding absolute power and glory alone. In the crowd, Qin Yuaixing stood alone, desolate and helpless, her tears flowing endlessly, her heart torn apart by crushing regret and pain. She finally woke up completely, finally understood how ridiculous and foolish her years of persistence had been. The mother who had given her everything, sheltered her from all storms, and spoiled her with all her life's tenderness, had been repeatedly misunderstood, hurt, and betrayed by her for a hypocritical liar. She had guarded a wolf who bit the hand that fed her, abandoned the warmest harbor in the world, and ruined her own perfect life with her own stubbornness and ignorance. Overwhelmed by endless remorse, she stumbled forward unsteadily, kneeling heavily on the ground before the stage, her voice broken and hoarse, begging humbly and desperately, "Mom, I was wrong, I truly know my wrongs, please forgive me, I will never be foolish again, never hurt you again, give me a chance to make amends and repay you." I looked indifferently at her tear-streaked, repentant face, my heart completely devoid of the past tenderness and affection. In my past life, I had forgiven her countless times with a soft heart, compromised repeatedly for mother-daughter affection, and tolerated her ignorance and willfulness again and again, only to be betrayed and pushed into hell in the end. Some hurts can never be healed. Some rifts can never be mended. Some lost affection can never be redeemed. My tone was calm, cold, and final, completely severing all remaining ties between us. It is too late. You, Xin. All your regret and pain today are self-inflicted. I gave you countless chances to wake up, countless chances to turn back, countless chances to cherish our mother-daughter bond. You chose to ignore them all, chose to stand by evil, chose to betray your family. When I suffered every torment and despair in purgatory, you were enjoying my glory, accompanying my enemy, and trampling on my sincerity. You never gave me mercy, and I have no reason to forgive you now. Her eyes widened in utter despair, her body trembling violently, all her thoughts of repentance and redemption completely shattered. She finally understood that the mother's love she had abandoned and trampled on was gone forever, never to return. I no longer spared her a single glance. Turning to face all the guests present, my posture tall and proud, my voice clear and powerful, resounding firmly across the venue. Today's reckoning is no personal grudge, but the elimination of evil and the rectification of right and wrong. Fen Jie Group is the lifelong painstaking foundation I have built through decades of trials and hardships. It will never allow greedy outsiders to covet it, never allow hidden cancers to erode it, never allow vicious villains to destroy it. From today onward, I will fully restructure the group's internal architecture, completely eliminate residual forces and hidden dangers, rectify the corporate atmosphere, upgrade industrial layout, and let Fen Jie Group to break through limits and reach greater glory. Li Chun Hua. Distinguish gratitude and grudges clearly. Reward goodness and punish evil without bias. Those who are loyal to me, I will repay with supreme glory. Those who betray me, I will punish to the fullest extent of the law. For the rest of my life, I will no longer be trapped by trivial affection, no longer bound by useless softness. I will uphold my original intention, hold power firmly in my own hands, walk my own path unyieldingly, and stand proudly at the peak of my world alone. My decisive and powerful declaration drew thunderous, endless applause from the entire audience. Every elite guest present expressing sincere admiration and awe. The grand birthday banquet ended completely with the full downfall and public disgrace of the Chen family. The dust settled, and all sins received their due punishment. Shen Yu was sentenced to heavy imprisonment for multiple serious crimes, including massive commercial fraud, embezzlement, and intentional harm, spending the rest of his life in prison with no chance of parole or comeback. All illegal assets and properties of the Chen family were fully recovered and sealed. Overnight, they fell from supreme glory to utter destitution. Their family reputation completely ruined, forever reduced to a shameful joke in high society, with no one willing to help or associate with them for generations to come. All former group executives and internal staff who had colluded with Chen Yu, harbored evil intentions, or stood on the wrong side, were thoroughly investigated and completely cleared out by Sun Guowei's special team. All corporate moles and internal cancers were eradicated completely. the group's internal atmosphere purified thoroughly. The team becoming loyal, pure, and efficient, laying a solid foundation for the group's rapid takeoff and eternal prosperity. I fulfilled my lifelong promise, promoting and reusing all loyal, virtuous, and capable subordinates without hesitation. I exceptionally promoted Sun Guowei to the position of group president, granting him supreme real power and generous treatment. In this life, I let him escape the suppression and ruin of my past life, allowing him to stand side by side with me, jointly guard the foundation, and create endless prosperity together, repaying his unwavering loyalty with supreme glory. After the turmoil subsided, He Yin Yu Xin fell into eternal desolation and regret. She lost all her wealth, status, glory, and reliance, lost her lover, lost her mother's love, lost her warm and perfect life, and lost all her youthful innocence and hope. Years of drug erosion left her with damaged nerves and broken physical and mental health. The collapse of her love belief and the endless torture of familial guilt accompanied her every day and night. She visited my door countless times, kneeling and begging for forgiveness, humble and repentant, hoping to make up for her mistakes and regain my tenderness and protection. But I always refused firmly, keeping my distance completely, never giving her any chance to redeem herself. Many people persuaded me to soften my heart, to consider blood being thicker than water, to give my daughter a chance to start over. But only I knew clearly that soft-hearted tolerance for evil is cruelty to oneself, and blind forgiveness for betrayal is disrespect for my own years of suffering. Her sins and regrets must be borne and redeemed by herself for a lifetime, and she can never use blood kinship to demand my unconditional forgiveness again. I no longer hated her, but I no longer loved her either. From the day she chose betrayal and evil, our mother-daughter fate was completely severed, destined for strangers for a lifetime. After cutting off all trivial fetters and useless obsessions, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to my career, relying on my decades of business experience, precise foresight of the times, and accurate judgment of the market. I seized every industry outlet, avoided all commercial traps, continuously expanded the business territory, optimized the industrial layout, and led Feng Hua Group to break through repeatedly. The foundation that had been hollowed out by Chen Yu quickly recovered vitality under my management, soaring rapidly in development. In just 1 year, Feng Hua Group far surpassed its previous peak value, achieving cross-industry breakthroughs and explosive growth, firmly securing its position as the absolute leader in the industry. Writing an unprecedented brilliant business legend, I completely shed all soft weaknesses, sentimental obsessions, and blind tolerance. I became sober and decisive, calm and powerful, no longer compromising for anyone, no longer yielding for any false affection. I worked diligently and steadily on weekdays, polish my career and vision in my spare time, travel across mountains and rivers to see the world's prosperity when free, and settle down peacefully to cultivate my mind when alone. I have loyal subordinates standing side by side, splendid mountains and rivers in my sight, prosperous business foundation in my hands, and firm and unwavering original intention in my heart. Standing by the floor-to-ceiling window of the top-floor office, overlooking the endless bright lights and bustling prosperity of the city at night, my eyes are clear and calm, without any trace of the regret, pain, and haze of my past life. In my past life, I misplaced my devotion, harbored endless softness, suffered all worldly coldness, and endured all human malice, ending up covered in scars and dying in despair. In this life, I am reborn from the abyss, reverse my doom to fate, settle all grievances completely, hold all prosperity in my own hands, and walk freely and magnanimously through the world. I finally became the most powerful version of myself, without weaknesses, without fetters, without obsessions, without regrets. From now on, the wind brushes my face. The mountains and rivers are safe. I wield my own edge, and all things go smoothly, holding prosperity in my hands. Fearing no wind or frost, I live up to myself and my original heart, standing firmly over my own world, peaceful and unyielding for all eternity.